So the first topic I wanted to ask you about is your day-to-day nutrition, which really is going to come into all four of those key areas, isn't it? Because what you eat day to day, obviously it massively affects your health. It affects whether you're going to train well in your performance. It affects all four, doesn't it? Yeah, this one we've already touched on. So how much protein should your average mountain biker eat? Now, this is day to day, but if you like, you've already touched a little bit before about protein timing, didn't you?
Yeah. So the sort of, I guess when it comes to the sort of a figure, you might have seen that there's a lot of bodies out there. I think the World Health Organization say that we should aim for 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. And that's really kind of based around sort of having enough protein for it not to, for us not to be deficient at a kind of population level, which obviously as an athlete, we're more interested in how much should we consume to kind of maximize recovery, make me feel good on the bike, be able to have a good weekend of riding effectively. And they're kind of slightly different approaches. Obviously, when we ride, we have slightly elevated needs for protein. First and foremost, because we actually break a bit of protein down during exercise. We use it as a fuel source. Fat and carbohydrate are the predominant fuel sources, but as much as sort of 5 to 10% of our energy on a ride can come from protein. Particularly if we don't fuel very well. As sort of carbohydrate stores in the body become quite low, we tend to rely more on protein. So we have sort of slightly elevated needs as an endurance athlete. And in terms of the recommendations, it's on a kind of sliding scale. So generally anything from sort of 1.2 grams per kg body weight up to sort of 2 grams, maybe 2.2 grams per kg body weight. If you're sort of someone that's trying to sort of lose fat mass, for example, and sort of trying to maintain muscle whilst you're in a calorie deficit, so you're not consuming enough energy, because that can kind of
that was good. But, so you'd go so 1.2 grams to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So for those people listening, so if we had a 100 kilogram person, you're eating 120 grams to 220 grams of protein. Now, the 120 grams is probably fairly easy for most people to get with some tweaks. 220 grams, I know from experience of doing it myself, is a lot of protein, isn't it? You mentioned that there's obviously a sliding scale. There's quite a big difference there in the amount. Is that based on like training volume? So is it when somebody's training 6 times a week or twice a day, 5 days a week, are they needing to aim for that 2.2 or not?
So 2.2 is like the upper end of kind of, I don't think I've ever recommended going above that. And that's really for kind of quite a specific sort of time frame in terms of fat loss, where you're trying to kind of maintain as much muscle tissue as possible. For your general rider, probably somewhere sort of towards the lower end in the middle. Around sort of, a lot of the research at the moment is talking around about 1.6 grams of protein per kg body weight is kind of the optimal kind of amount for athletes. Generally, I think one of the biggest factors that influences protein intake is actually the total amount of energy that you're taking in. So, you can have... if Tour de France riders, for example, a lot of those guys will be taking in up to 2 grams per kg body weight, just out of the sheer volume of food that they're eating, effectively. For a lot of us, towards that lower end is kind of 1.2 to 1.6 is probably about optimal for your kind of average sort of cyclist, really.
And would that be the same for somebody who just rides twice a week? So let's say somebody rides twice a week and goes to the gym once or twice a week.
Yeah, I mean, if on a sort of training day, I'd be certainly aiming towards that sort of range. I mean, even on sort of rest days, for example. So, one of the key reasons one of the key things that protein does is it provides the amino acids within protein. So that's the kind of the different amino acids that make up the whole protein that we consume within our diet. They make up the building blocks for repair and recovery of muscle tissue, effectively. And even, when we do a training session, depending on the sort of type of training, our muscles can be kind of sensitized to that protein intake for as much as sort of 36 hours after a session.